really delighted to be here with you today, and I can see that a lot of people went to a good deal of preparation and work for us to gather here tonight. Just having the various music groups and the choirs, the musicians, and all of the servers. I know as well that you all who are gathered here had other things you could have been doing tonight, and yet you took time to be here. And that is as well said of your pastors and the priests who serve you. They too have busy schedules. So I'm really humbled by the turnout here tonight, and also by the wonderful preparation that has gone in to making this such a joyous occasion. Thank you very much. I feel very honored and humbled by your invitation and all that you've done to prepare for this day. I was telling Bishop Perry as we were driving that I had visited the other vicariates, and I was told when Bishop Cupich had me at his vicariate that they are the best vicariate. And then I said that to Bishop Rojas, and he said, well, we are the most exciting vicariate. And then Bishop Razas, who's in Vicariate 1, I said, these other two say that they're the best and the most exciting. What do you have to say about yourself? And he said, well, we're number 1. And so I asked the same question of Bishop Perry. And he said, you know, if you look at the terrain and all the flatness that's part of Chicago, we really have some very different kind of topography here. So we're the highest one. So I can't wait to go to the other two. What Bishop Manns is going to say and Bishop Frank Kane. So stay tuned, as they say. Tonight, you hear in the two readings that we have from the Gospel of Mark and Hebrews a concern about those who do the will of God. And I don't know about you, but it's always hard to know what God's will is, especially in our lives where there are so many things that bombard us and so many values in life to kind of balance. Where is God's will? And how do we come to recognize it in our lives, especially if we have some very difficult decisions to make that not only impact us, but other people? So tonight, I want to bring you back to that gospel scene that we heard, in which we have the mother and family of Jesus coming to where Jesus is. They're standing outside of the house. And Jesus says that those who are his brothers and sisters who do the will of God are the ones that know that God is with them, that they are really his family. And he looks around those who are with him at that point. And what I would like you to do is to draw your attention to the different postures that people have in the gospel. Those who are at the door are standing and they're outside. But the ones that Jesus refers to as doing the will, who are in fact his family members, are in a different posture. They are seated, we're told, in a circle around Jesus. And there are 3 aspects that I want to talk to you tonight about how in our own spiritual life we really come to an awareness, at least we get some hints of where God's will is. Something that happens to us that gives us a sense of serenity, that gives us a sense of confidence that God's will is being done. The first thing is that we hear that those people who are with Jesus are sitting down. They are in a sedentary position. They're at peace. They're tranquil. We know ourselves that our life can be very upsetting because of the very fast pace that we go through in life. And we know ourselves that when we're silent in our prayer, when we're quiet in our hearts, that God has a better chance of getting through to us. And so it's important for us, if we're really seeking the will of God, to take that time out, just to be quiet, to turn off the television, to maybe not allow other things in our life to begin to get our attention, that we're attracted to the newest thing, or that we have to be every place at one time. To have that quiet time in life. And that brings us to a peacefulness. We know that we are doing the will of God when we feel a peacefulness in our lives. Then we're calm and we can make the right decision. Then we have clear vision, even in moments of crisis, even in moments in which everything seems to in some way be falling apart. If we have a peacefulness about us. I remember a story that was told when John Paul II visited the United States, and he was having dinner with a group of bishops, and the host wanted to make sure that he really was served well, and so he got the best waiter in town to wait on the Pope. And so they were serving pasta. And so the waiter came with the pasta, and he put it in front of the Pope, and the Pope took some. And then in the other hand, he had the nice bolognese sauce, the red sauce. And he brought it around this way. And just as he was going around to the front of the Pope, the wine steward came by and bumped his elbow, and all the red sauce went all over the white of the Pope's cassock. Everybody panicked. All the Pope did was go like this. Good sauce, he said, good sauce. There was a tranquility about him. There was a peacefulness about it. Maybe one of the reasons that he appeared to be so saintly to all of us. Well, we know people like that. Maybe a mother in a family who has many things and obligations with many children, or a grandparent who just is able to be at peace in a moment of crisis. We have a better chance of doing the will of God if we cultivate that peacefulness in our life. That sense of not being torn apart as though we have to decide everything at once, or that we have to respond to everybody at once, but a peacefulness in our heart. The second thing that we see in terms of the posture is that these people are all sitting in a circle. I heard the music before Mass, and I recognized the tambura, the nice Croatian music that was sung, and that's my heritage. And I recalled for me that when I was a child, every Wednesday we would go and we would learn Croatian folk dances. And these dances were done in circles. They were called kolo dances, in which, in fact, you would dance it with others hand in hand in a circle. And what it did is gave you a sense of being connected with other people. Circles do that. They give us a sense that we are connected one to another. I also worked in western South Dakota for 12 years with the Native Americans. Now, they didn't know what to make of me at all. And in fact, I remember this one time, a nice little Indian lady came up to me and she says, "Oh, I'm so glad that we have one of our own as the bishop of the diocese." And I was a little surprised by that. And I said, "Well, tell me why you say that." Well, she said, "We heard you were from the Crow Nation." I didn't try to explain it. I said, "Great, it's good to be among family." But circles make us connected. And the more that we are connected with one another and don't live in isolation and don't make decisions just that benefit us, but see how it has an impact on other people, we are more apt to be doing the will of God. when we make sure that we include other people in those very important decisions and don't just satisfy ourselves when we see that we're living in a circle of life with one another. And finally, we see that Jesus is in the middle of the circle. That's a great reminder for all of us, that the distance between Jesus and each one of us is the same. Nobody, whether you're a priest or bishop, religious sister, layperson, deacon, or whatever, has a corner on the market when it comes to God's grace, to the relationship that we have with Jesus. We all have the same grace of our baptism, in which the Lord is individually looking at us and giving us what we need. And it's important for us to always respect that. It's important, especially tonight, as you see the diversity of this community with the various language groups and ethnic groups and backgrounds and history, to remember that each one of us is equal in our relationship with the Lord, and that each one of us is given the grace in order to respond to what Christ is calling us to do. Sometimes in life, we forget that. And that is what gives rise many times to prejudices and bigotry. Not just in terms of races and ethnicity, but even the way sometimes that we treat people who are too young or too old or too sick, that we consider in some way that we can write off. They tell the story of a bishop who during Lent one year wanted to go and visit people who were in nursing homes because he had neglected to see elderly people. And he came across this lady one day at a nursing home, 90-some years old. She was fast asleep in a wheelchair, and she had on her lap a completed New York Times crossword puzzle, Sunday crossword puzzle, and it was done in ink.
Oh, wow.
And so he tapped her on the shoulder, and he says, "Hello, dear. Do you know who I am?" And she looked up at him and said, "No. But if you go up to the front desk, somebody can tell you." Sometimes we write people off too easily because of their age or their infirmity. What's important for each one of us is to be convinced that we all have the same relationship. We all have the same opportunity for God's grace. Because the more that we are convinced of that, the less apt we're going to give in to bigotry and prejudice and be fearful of other people. When it comes to God, there is no exhausting of God's mercies and God's grace. We all are equal in that circle with Jesus in the center. It's important for each one of us to live our lives always seeking the will of God. And this gospel that we have tonight reminds us that when we develop a peacefulness in our heart through our prayer and quiet, when we live in a circle in which we remind ourselves we're connected to each other, as we do here in this Eucharist, and as we remember that each one of us is graced by Christ, who's in the middle of the circle, equidistant from us as everyone else, then we will be able to see that we are doing the will of God. We're going to have a better chance to make those right decisions, to live our lives according to Christ's will, and better yet, as Jesus tells us, He will call us His family. It is His mother and brothers and sisters and all His family who do the will. And so let us today, as we celebrate this Eucharist, seek that will by making sure that we quiet our hearts, that we see our connections with one another, and we believe that each one of us is graced by God.
Amen.